Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me here today. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about gaming as an up-and-coming instructional strategy that we can use in our classrooms. I'm going to start talking about some of the potential benefits of gaming, address some of your concerns that you may have, and then we're going to talk about the actual plan for implementing gaming in our school. Before we talk about the plan for implementation, I wanted to just start off by talking about some of the benefits of gaming that are supported by research into implementing gaming into the classroom so far. So, gaming has proven to be a highly interactive way of teaching. It allows students to learn by doing and by being actively involved in the content. They're going to be developing some important problem-solving skills, and be motivated to develop the skills that they need to win the game, which will ultimately lead to them understanding the content better. When they are playing a game, students are going to be receiving immediate feedback on how they're doing, where they'll progress in the game if they're doing well, and if not, then they won't. So they'll be pretty self-aware of their performance when using gaming as an instructional tool. Gaming can really be suitable for any content area, or any age. I included a few examples of games that I felt had a good, strong instructional basis. One of them is in the top left here, Math Blaster. This is something that's used a lot with elementary school students, and it helps with learning basic math facts. The Oregon Trail is a popular and well-known game that students can use to learn more about that period in history, and I think we've all probably been pretty familiar with that and seen its success. And then I decided to also include one that I thought was a little more unconventional and you might not think about as instructional initially. It's a game called Plague Inc. It could be a fun way in a health class to talk about communicable diseases and how diseases spread in a really interactive way. Of course, with implementing any new strategy, along with the benefits, we're going to have some challenges. So I tried to think about some potential challenges that we may have, or perhaps questions that you may have as a stakeholder in this school. One thing that I thought of is you might be thinking, well, how much attention are students really paying to the content of the game, or are they really just playing? You may be thinking, how are we going to balance this with other learning activities? And how are we going to keep students from having too much screen time? Reception from stakeholders like parents, other staff members, administration could all be kind of questionable depending on the way that you implement. And also gamification versus gaming, where in a gamification setting, you're applying something like a badging system or game-like elements rather than actual games into the classroom. Now that we've talked about some of the potential challenges, I'd like to address those and ways that we could combat them and keep them from becoming actual problems. When we're talking about paying attention to the content, I think that the way to really ensure that this is happening is by choosing appropriate games that are content-driven, not just content-related. So, for example, if you're teaching students about fractions, just because a game includes cutting a pizza into different pieces isn't necessarily making it content-driven. Sure, it has fractions involved, but they're probably not going to be paying much attention to that. So just really ensuring that the games are directly driven by the content, and you must understand the content in order to play them. In terms of maintaining balance of learning activities and preventing students from spending too much time in front of a screen, I would suggest using a rotational station model where students spend some time during each class at a computer or on a tablet doing the gaming, but then they're also rotating to other stations where maybe they're working with peers, doing a hands-on activity, reading, meeting with the teacher, whatever may be necessary for that class. As far as reception goes from all of the stakeholders involved, making sure that we can really justify our reasoning for using these games, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the actual strategy. And for gamification versus gaming, implementing actual games, not just game-like elements. So my proposal for this new gaming in the classroom is to start with meeting with content area teachers. So all the math teachers will meet, all the social studies teachers will meet. Get together and really find resources that are going to make complete sense in your classroom, making sure that it is content driven, making sure that it's relevant and rigorous for your students. Our next step would be really narrowing down and choosing exactly what games you want to implement to begin with. Then you're going to actually implement, try it out, and then we'll go back and it will be a cycle of meeting again with the content area teachers, seeing how it all works out, and continuing to improve the process. All of my references that I've used for this presentation are here, the peer-reviewed articles that I use to back all of my research. Thank you for joining me, and have a great day.